Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
You guys ready for a spooky ass episode during Halloween season?
Dude, this is a great pick for Halloween.
This
is a great pick.
You know, it creeped me out. Not so much the person, the perpetrator in this. I don't find him all that intimidating or scary, but what he was doing, like before you know, like what he was doing to the people, his victims in this.
Right.
Like just like he was basically making them believe that their house was haunted and whatnot. I don't want to give away too much, but
right.
Like I just put myself in those girls' shoes, and I was freaked out thinking about what they were dealing with. You know,
it is crazy. And what's so crazy about this story too is that it's so creepy that if somebody made it up, you'd be like, really? I would feel like you're trying too hard,
yeah,
or you're being too stereotypical. But the fact that this story is real, you know, it kind of gives basis to a lot of those stupid movies that we watch, or maybe it's vice versa, right? Maybe this character kind of took stuff from movies that he saw, or just scary.
I could see that. He was a loner type that lived in his own fantasy world.
Right. He enjoyed that category and wanted to kind of bring it to life. But I think just the sinister aspect of the way that he went about, I'm trying not to give too much away, right?
Yeah.
But the sinister aspect and the way he went about it just made me feel like we talked about this before, that he was going to escalate into something much, much more dangerous.
Oh, he was a textbook escalation criminal. Like it started out like peeping and then breaking into places, and the next thing you know, of course, there's murder that ends up occurring, and it was just a quick escalation. And I think he would have gone on to become a Night Stalker type, like Richard Ramirez, where he was going to be on almost a daily basis. He was going to be breaking into homes and potentially killing people if they didn't stop him. He was not turning back.
And you talk about a terrifying story. Richard Ramirez, if you guys don't know the details, I know you've heard of him. I know if you've heard of true crime, you've probably heard of Richard Ramirez. But if you do not know the details, check out our two-parter on Richard Ramirez.
That was one of our earliest episodes.
Dude, I mean, that was one of those episodes where I remember I had trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
I had trouble sleeping through the night just because of the way that he got into houses, the way that how silently he moved, how quickly and how easily he was able to get into properties and in people's bedrooms. It just scared the shit out of me.
He was the boogeyman, dude. Legitimately.
Yes.
He was the boogeyman.
Legitimately. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was terrorizing an entire county, pretty much.
Yes.
For a long time.
He was.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is kind of like a Richard Ramirez light, or like Richard Ramirez in training. This kid, I think that was
Richard Ramirez Jr.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah, and he had the same kind of creepy look, you know.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
He did. He could have been like Richard Ramirez's little creepy nephew.
He could have.
So yeah, let's get into it and tell you this creepy ass story.
All right, let's do it, man.
Words cannot fully capture what I have done.
The unspeakable crime happened in late fall of 1987 in Townsend, a town about an hour and a half northwest of Boston.
My actions have crossed boundaries into the unspeakably heinous. I murdered 3 innocent people. Because of me, a 5-year-old boy will never turn 6. There's a 7-year-old girl that will never turn 80. Because of me, a woman was never able to give birth to her 3rd child. And I robbed an unborn child of its first breath. A husband was never able again to hear from his family, I love you.
I liken him to a rabid dog that needs to be put down.
I do not have the words to fully express my profound sorrow, but I am truly sorry for the harm that I caused. In the very essence of who I am, the depth of my soul, I am sorry.
Our task is to, make sure that the people of Massachusetts never have to face this man on the street.
All right, our case this week is a young man by the name of Daniel LaPlante. Do you think it was LaPlante or like LaPlante, or I don't know, how would you?
It probably started out as LaPlante.
Yeah.
But every pronunciation I heard was LaPlante.
Yeah, we'll just go with LaPlante. That's a lot easier.
Yeah, LaPlante.
Daniel LaPlante.
It sounds more fitting for him. He's not fancy enough for LaPlante. You know?
Yeah, and he's up in Massachusetts, so we could go Daniel LaPlante. LaPlante, eh?
Daniel. Yeah. Hey, Daniel LaPlante, get out of my yard.
You're stepping on my LaPlantes.
You LaPlante your foot in here one more time. I'm going to push you through that fucking wall.
Yeah, this Daniel LaPlante was a deeply troubled young man, one of the creepiest people that we've ever studied. I mean, maybe not one of the most dangerous, although he was working his way towards one of the more dangerous that we've ever covered, undoubtedly.
Oh, he was well on his way.
He was well on his way, but he luckily got caught. He was too brazen and cocky early on, and he got caught, thankfully. But he definitely was troubled from a young age, and he had a broken household and very troubled home. A lot of abuse and violence, and created quite a little monster.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did indeed. But he had brothers, and we haven't heard anything about them. So I always like to pull that up. It's like when somebody's like, oh, it's the household, it's the upbringing. It's like, yeah, but they had 3 or 4 siblings that grew up to have fine lives.
You got to have the right cocktail, though. I think he was already destined to be a strange boy, and then you combine that with the broken household, and
that's true.
Violent stepfather and being abused by multiple adults, and then you get a Daniel LaPlante.
Right, and also children interpret things differently. You know what I mean? Like I've noticed that with my kids. I'll give them both the same punishment, and one is motivated by it, while the other is depressed or harmed by it or whatever. Like they feel like they're being treated unfairly, when the other one's like, okay, yeah, I deserve this. Okay, fine. It's just funny the way that kids interpret things differently. I mean, I look at myself I have 2 adult sisters, and we're completely different. Like we disagree on like everything, completely different worlds, but are raised by the same people. So, it can be. There's so many variables when raising a child. I don't think a parent should take all the blame, and I also don't think that a person necessarily should have to take all the blame. I mean, once you're an adult, you have to make your own choices. But
it is kind of bizarre how often you see siblings that are so different. Like physically, they look different, and the same 2 parents look different, act completely different. And you're just like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And then you see families where like all the brothers and sisters seem almost all the same.
Yeah.
Look similar. Their personalities and behaviors are pretty similar.
Right. I think it just depends on how much time they spend together in the later years, and through those formative years as well. I think that's what makes siblings so different from each other is at a young age they're forced to be around each other. Right? There's nobody else. Like you're at home, you're with these siblings, you play together, you fight together, whatever. And then as you grow up into your formative years, which would be 12, 13, all the way up 19, 20, now you're sick of them. Because you know everything about them. They know everything about you. They call you on your bullshit. You're tired of being around them. You want to be around other friends that fit your vein or whatever. And that's where I think people separate. I think that's where siblings separate. And then every time you meet, you end up bringing up stuff that happened before your formative years. And you're so beyond that. You're so past that as a person that it makes it hard for you to connect, because you're each holding on to this past person that you used to be as siblings. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, no, for sure.
And I think
your influences too, growing up, like a lot of times the friends are more of an influence than your siblings or your family. So
exactly,
if you guys got into completely different friend groups, one of your brother got into a group of people who were a bunch of shithead criminals, and that was kind of his other family that raised him, then you could be totally different.
Exactly.
And also, I've always wondered genetically, like where the parents are at when they conceive a child. Mm-hmm. Like, let's say you have a kid when you're both 18 years old, and then you have your second kid when you're 25, and like everything is different about you. Physically you've changed, and you're everything. Your personality's changed. All that. Like, does that play into the kind of child you create, where you're at mentally and physically when you have a kid? Does that
no doubt
create a different type of child? Does your genetics change in that sense? I always wondered about that too.
Your genetics absolutely do change. The better health that you're in when your child is conceived, the better start you're giving your child. Period. Yeah. Especially if you're the male. If you're the man, and the healthier you are, the better. Obviously, you can be as healthy as you want, and if the woman is going to be smoking and drinking during pregnancy or whatever, obviously you're fucked. But I'm just saying, from the time of conception, if the male is in good health and in better health, he gives his offspring a better chance. I mean, that's like scientifically proven. So somebody who's 18, especially a male at the top of their physical condition, 18 to 20 years old, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have, I mean, hypothetically or theoretically, the best child you could possibly have. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just spitting this out here. I'm not saying if you have a child
how much,
at 30.
let's say you're a dumb 18-year-old kid though.
Yeah.
Compared to, let's say you're like a really healthy, strong 25-year-old dude who's now got degrees and he's really like pushed himself to become, an intelligent person. Do you think that gives them an edge as far as like the offspring they have?
No doubt.
Might be, more. I don't know. It sounds like bro science. Like, well, bro, of course you're smarter. You're gonna have a smarter kid.
No.
Or you're jacked. The kid's gonna come out jacked, son. Like, what do you think?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, his regular things are gonna be healthier. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as health.
Look at your boy's arms, bro. You didn't do enough curls.
You didn't do enough curls. Look how skinny your baby is, bro. That's why your baby's premature, bro. You didn't go all the way. Yeah. But no, it just makes sense, right? I mean, the healthier you are, the better off you're going to be. Like, I have a cousin and her husband. They have been wanting to have kids forever, but they're just not happy with themselves physically and where they're at as far as their eating habits and their health. And I think it's smart to wait if you can. You know what I'm saying? I think it's smart for them. And they're both like working very hard. They're changed their diet. They're working out constantly. They're staying busy. They're moving up in their careers, and now they're ready. They want to put their best foot forward when having a child. Which, I mean, if you know that information and you don't, I feel like it's your fault. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't know, you don't know. You have a kid, you do your best. That's what most of us parents do. That's what I did.
Right.
I didn't plan my kids. I just had my kids. Right. I love them. They've always been here, is what it seems like to me, and I do my best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
We really went off. We really went off on a different road here. We took a turn.
We did. But a
decent conversation.
decent
We should
conversation.
put this in just the banter or save this?
No. This is relevant. This is relevant to raising children, and this is there's not a whole lot to this case anyway. So we want to fill it out a little bit. Yeah.
So, to get back on track, Daniel LaPlante was born May 16th, 1970. He was raised in Townsend, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And he shares a birthday. This is a hell of a group. It made up for last week. Remember last week I was like, there was nothing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was like, there's nobody I even want to shout out who's born on that day.
Right.
Now, this one I had to nitpick down because there were so many good ones. May 16th, he shares a birthday with Megan Fox, Danny Trejo, and H.H. Holmes.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
H.H. Holmes was like, that was a little bit creepy because it's like I could see some H.H. Holmes and Daniel LaPlante with the creeping and sneaking in people's walls and watching them and stuff. H.H. Holmes was into that sort of thing.
That's right. And didn't H.H. Holmes say he was born with the devil inside him or something like that?
It's been so long since we did that one, and that was one of my favorite episodes to record. I think that one turned out really good.
That was a fun episode.
Really went deep with the research on that one. If you guys haven't heard it, check it. I think it's on Patreon only, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, man. We got the book. What was it? Something in the Light, the Devil in the Light, or something.
Yeah.
Devil in the City of Light, or something.
Yes, I remember that. I remember the book now because it gave such background on the time. Of H.H. Holmes.
Oh, yeah. 1800s.
Fantastic.
And the World Fair and all that.
Yes. I was just as fascinated with the time period and the history that I learned in that book as I was learning about H.H. Holmes. It's just well written. Very well written.
Yeah, but man, they seem like two peas in a pod, Daniel LaPlante and H.H. Holmes, the more I think about it. I feel like Daniel LaPlante, he would love to build a home like H.H. Holmes did where you had all these secret passages and things like that. He was
in that sense.
Daniel was a depraved young boy that he was a voyeur. Like he was like a shut-in and like lonely, didn't have friends, and like he wanted to watch other people's lives.
Yeah, he did, but he wasn't as smart as H.H. Holmes though.
Oh, I mean, he was still young. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it just seemed like he wasn't in school enough to even get a decent education.
Yeah,
I mean, he was a problem child from when he was able to be a problem child, from what it sounded like.
Yeah, well, let's get into that. So he had two brothers, Stephen and Matthew, and was raised by his mother and stepfather. Their home was overrun with stray animals and junk. People tended to avoid the family. So they were that family.
Okay.
If you think in your neighborhood or growing up, the neighbor that house that was just gross and like the family didn't seem to clean themselves and they had weird kids and stuff. That was Daniel LaPlante was the weird kid.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, multiple sources claim that Daniel suffered an extremely traumatic childhood filled with sexual and psychological abuse by numerous adults, including his father and a mental health professional. So he gets either seeks treatment or he's put in treatment for his issues, and then that professional sexually assaults him, allegedly.
Dude, I got a hunch that happens way more often than we think. Right?
I hope not, man. I hope not.
I got a bad feeling it does.
We've heard of it happening before in this show, so that tells you that it's got to be somewhat common if we've already covered it multiple times.
That's
that
right.
scenario.
That's right. Yeah.
So this may be why Danny became one of the town's notorious troublemakers from a young age. One neighbor telling a reporter that, quote, "When you saw Danny, you watched him. He earned his reputation. He was a troublemaker from day one." So I get the feeling that he was, always sneaking around and people would catch him in their yards and things like that, stealing things or watching them through their windows. And
yeah, he liked to scare people. He liked to try to do that. A lot of his pranks and things like that were to strike fear in people. And
that's such a common serial killer thing too.
Yes. Yeah, because when you can strike fear into people, you can control them. And I think that type of control is intoxicating to these types of people.
You have that moment of power where they have ultimate fear of you.
Yeah, exactly.
As a teen, Daniel began breaking into people's homes. He would sometimes steal things, but often he would just move items around. So you'd come home and you'd just like, what is going? Something's not right. Like shit is moved around.
Right.
I didn't do this. Someone's been in here, and he just got off on that. Like that's another power thing. It's like
Yep, and he would move big 100% things too,
power.
like furniture and stuff. Like it's not like he was just like moving someone's wallet or something. Like he would move furniture. He like move your living room around or something, and then dip out.
Yep.
Like it was unmistakable that someone was in your house. You know what I'm
it's
saying?
almost worse than being robbed because at least you know the motive behind being robbed.
Right,
You're like, well, they wanted my shit. They're not coming back. They wanted my shit. They got my shit. Now they're gone.
Exactly.
Whereas like, what the fuck is this? Like, why is my stuff moved around? They didn't take anything. Are they here now? When are they coming back? Like, it's got to be a very helpless feeling.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, you've had your home broken into before. Imagine that, but imagine if you had no idea what their intentions were. That would drive you insane. You would just lie awake every day, be like, how did they get in here? Like,
are they in here now?
Where are
That's
they
what
now?
I'd be thinking too.
Yeah. Why are they moving stuff around? Why are they fucking with me? Is this like a personal vendetta? What is going on?
Yep. Yeah, that was actually one of the scary, like, I don't know, the horror movie, The Strangers, I don't know if you've seen that, but that was one of the worst parts of that was that they were messing with the people in the cabin. Like, they'd be moved, like, all of a sudden the phone would be missing from the charger, things like that. The window would be open. You're like, what the hell? Like, where are they? They're in here now, or they're screwing with me.
Yep, exactly.
And from here, the second part of this story begins much like a horror movie with an unexpected phone call to a family home, the Andrews family. So this is in Daniel LaPlante's hometown in Townsend, Massachusetts. This young girl named Annie has no idea that he exists. However, she receives a phone call, and she's home with her sister at the time because her dad's always working. We'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
So in 1986, when Daniel was 16 years old, he called the Andrews home. 15-year-old Annie Andrews answered the phone. This is who Daniel was trying to reach. He knew that she would be the one to answer the phone, being the oldest child in the home, and the father not being there, and the mother, as we'll get into, was no longer around. So Annie lived with her father. Her father's name was Brian, and her younger sister, Jessica. Annie's mother had recently passed away after a long battle with cancer. Her father was now a widower and worked a lot to try and provide for his daughter. So he was not at home as much as he'd like to be, but he had to provide for them now without dual income.
Exactly.
And he was also trying to grieve and deal with the loss of his wife, and also trying to help his daughters get through this tough time. So it was a rough time for the family.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is when Daniel LaPlante decides to call this home and began tormenting them, the daughters. Upon Annie answering the phone, Daniel told Annie that he was a teen from a neighboring school and that he tracked her down because she was attractive.
Creepy.
Now you have to keep in mind this is before you could slide into someone's DMs or right. There was no internet. This is the mid '80s.
Yeah.
So you had to cold call. I guess this is a way it was done from time to time. Cold call somebody's home landline. We all remember those of us who are old enough remember the awkward moments when you'd have to call someone's house phone and their dad would answer and be like, "Is Crystal there?
Yeah, yeah.
Who's this? This is Lauren. I know her from school. What do you want with my daughter?
Never mind.
Yeah, right. Just hang up.
Oh yeah, I do remember that, man.
That was the worst.
That was
the worst. Yeah, and then you knew that at any moment they could pick up the phone from the other room and be right in the middle of your conversation too.
Oh, I know.
There was all those little tricks where you could like sneakily pick up the phone and try to not to hear the click of you being on the line.
Yeah, you had to like pick it up so easily if you wanted to.
Or if you were real clever, you try to time it to when they pick up the phone, you pick up the phone from in the other room, and then you're in on the whole conversation.
Oh man, you had it down to a science. Oh shit. That's funny. Yeah, I remember those times, man. I remember when you had, like, right at the beginning of dial-up internet, you're trying to get on the internet and somebody picks up the phone. Oh, sorry. God damn it.
Right.
That was a 20-minute process wasted.
Oh, man. So much wasted time back then. People don't realize how lucky they have it. You get upset now if something takes a minute to download, and it's like, dude.
I know. Dude,
I get what it was like in dial-up days.
I know. I get so frustrated with my phone because it won't load within like a few seconds. Whereas if you gave me this phone in 2008, I'd be like, "Oh my God, you got to be an alien or something from the future. This is insane."
Right.
That this phone is so fast.
Yep. Yeah. So he calls the Andrews home. Annie picks up the phone. He tells her that he tracked her down because she was attractive and he was from a neighboring school. And he also, over the course of several phone calls, told her a series of lies in that he was a tall, blonde, good-looking teenager and he was the captain of his high school football team. These were all lies. Wow. He was short. He had dark hair. He had acne. I wouldn't say he just looked like a teen that was going through puberty and whatnot.
Yeah, he's just in that weird in-between stage.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard different sources say, he was like an ugly kid. I'm like, he just looked like a teenage kid with acne. He didn't look
right.
He's
but when you know what he did, it's easier to view him in an ugly light.
Yeah, of course you want to demonize him because he's a fucking demon.
Right.
So.
Exactly. It kind of comes with the territory. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So not in her. I'm sure she was flattered. She's 15 at this time, and getting a call from a boy who's saying that he found her attractive and talking himself up a bit. She was a little flattered and continued to talk to him, and eventually they set up a first date. She agrees to go on a date with Danny LaPlante. The date, however, so he comes and he picks her up, and it didn't really go as planned though. Right away when she answered the door, she realized that she'd been catfished. She'd been being lied to.
I was just about to say that.
Yep. Before anyone knew what catfishing even was.
Right.
So
he didn't even bother to dye his hair or nothing. Like, come on, dude.
No.
Didn't even dye your hair blonde. Like, you're gonna go meet her the next day, and you're telling her that you have blonde hair and that you're tall. It's like maybe he wasn't expecting to get that far. Maybe he was just like, she'll turn me down over the phone, and then it'll give me a reason to stalk her.
Right.
Maybe that's as far as he thought it was gonna go.
Mm-hmm. And maybe he got off on the power when it came to her still agreeing to go out with him. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I can get her to do whatever I want already.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So they go out on a date. They go get some ice cream. And the whole time he's making her awkward because for whatever reason, he's obsessed with her mother's death. She tells him that her mother, I don't know if he already knew. He may have already known because he was, a creepy stalker type.
Right.
And I'm sure he'd already been watching her. That's how he knew when he called that she would be the one to answer, not her father.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, nonetheless, during their conversation on their first date, he just can't stop talking about her mother and how did she die and did she suffer and all this stuff. And she's like just creeped out by the fact that he's so obsessed with her mother that had recently passed away. And I'm sure she didn't really want that to be the entire night. It's like I'm trying to this date was maybe supposed to be something that could help her forget for a little bit about that. She's probably been just nonstop thinking about her mother.
Right.
And so she ends up ending the date kind of short. She has him take her back after only an hour. And from there on, she stopped returning his phone calls and had assumed that this would be the end of it. She was done with this weirdo. Of course, that wouldn't be the end of it because Daniel wasn't going to just let things go. In the following months, he would turn the Andrews family's world upside down. He would basically begin tormenting Annie and her sister. Annie and Jessica's mother, the family matriarch, had died only a short time ago, leaving her and her father and her sister alone. Grief-stricken, the two girls had a seance. So they're in their home one night. Their father's at work as usual, and they decide to do a little seance to try and contact their mother and say goodbye.
Right.
Try and talk to her spirit. And during the seance, they began hearing sounds. They began hearing knocks on walls, knocks on pipes within the walls. And first they were entranced, thinking maybe this was Mom trying to talk to us, but then it just got more and more intense, and it began to terrify them, of course. From here on, things would go missing within the house, furniture would be moved around, and soon the girls thought that something much more sinister than the ghost of their mother was inhabiting their home.
Gosh, this is such a horrible thing to do. You're taking advantage of these two girls at the most vulnerable time. At first, just imagine that. Imagine like doing this seance and then you actually starting to get a response.
Right.
Like you got to think like, oh my God, is that my mom? Especially at, you know, 15, 13, 15 years old, however old these girls are. I mean, that's got to be brutal, man. Brutal to go through that range of emotions. You know, first you're sad and then you do this, and then now you're inspired. You're like, oh my God, maybe we can contact her. And then they start getting
just to find out that no, it's a psychopath, creeper, stalker that's tormenting us. That's what it really.
It's on another
Not
level
my mother,
of assault, man, of like mental assault, psychological assault.
Yeah. Yep.
But this is probably the kind of shit that was done to him as a kid, though. Honestly, he seems like he probably had the type of parents that when they didn't want him to do something, they told him a horrible story that would happen if he did. I can't stand that stuff, man. I'm like, why are you doing that? You're just making your kid afraid of the whole world.
Right.
Like, there's no sense in doing that. Just tell your kid the truth. Just tell them the truth. Like, I don't know, man. It just seems like somebody just doesn't get off on these sinister practices without this stuff being done to them. I think something of this extent was probably done to him throughout his childhood.
Well, like we talked about in the Greg Kelly episode with young children, like when you introduce certain ideas into their head, they take them and they run with them.
That's right.
And so, like what you're saying, like telling them these things that could happen if they don't do this or that, like that's introducing that whole concept into their brain at a young age that they don't really necessarily need yet. You know, they don't know how to use it or where to categorize it.
That's right. That's right.
So when the girls told their father at the time, so they're experiencing all this stuff, all these sounds in their home, especially when they did the seance, that was really intense for them, I'm sure. And now they're noticing all these things being moved around and whatnot. And so when they tell their father, at the time, he just assumed that it was a cry for attention because of all that they were going through. And he blamed himself a little bit for, not being able to help them get through the grief of losing their mother. But he was convinced that none of this was actually going on, that they were just trying to get his attention.
Right.
And you can see that. You can see where he's coming from. A lot of kids kids claim to see things and hear things, monsters and whatnot. And
all the time.
How often does a parent actually give real clout to it? It's very rare.
It is. But it just sucks because the fear is real, right?
Yeah.
The monster to them is real. Like for instance, my youngest daughter will not sleep in her room with a mirror turned around. Like she has like this full body length mirror that she likes to look in when she gets dressed, but she keeps it in her closet and she'll move it in and out all the time because she will not have that damn mirror sitting in her room when she goes to sleep. It just
mirrors are fucking freaky.
Yes.
Like in the dark. Yeah, mirrors are freaky. And every horror movie they involve some kind of mirror. Like you look into it and a monster's looking back at you or a ghost or whatever. So I could see it.
Right. And I've never told her about anything like that. It's just ideas that they pick up. Maybe they saw it in a movie or a cartoon or something.
Yeah.
And she's just freaked out by it. But it's so real to her. Like she will not sleep. Like she screamed at me from like another part of the house to come in there and put her mirror up before because she doesn't want to get out of bed in the dark with that mirror.
You have to show them that you believe their fear is real, but then you have to try and also tell them that there are no such things as ghosts and monsters and whatnot. So you got to walk that line. You don't want to make them feel stupid or like you don't believe them.
That's right. That's right. I just go in there and I'm like, hey, look, I'm gonna put it in here, but nothing's in here, babe. It's just a mirror. I'll just knock on it. I'm like, look, it's just plastic. The other side, it's nothing. I mean, nothing can come out of here, But I'll still put it up, like you said, just to show them that I respect them and just to give them peace of mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So they're freaked out. Obviously, a lot of the weird stuff's going on in the home. Their mother's not around. Their father's at work, and now they tell their dad, and he does nothing about it because he just thinks they're crying out for attention. Then one day, Annie and her little sister Jessica heard strange sounds coming from the basement. Terrified, they ventured downstairs. Of course, the basement, dude. The basement's already fucking freaky enough.
Of course,
when you're
they
a
go
kid.
down there.
Yeah, this is like. It's like Home Alone with the furnace down in the basement. It's like that's how kids view basements already. They're already creepy.
Basements are creepy, man. No windows, no light, hardly.
Yeah. So terrified, they ventured downstairs and encountered a horrible sight. Written on the wall in what looked like blood was a message simply stating, "I'm in your room. Come find me."
Oh, yikes!
That's imagine.
Nope. I'm out of here.
Yeah, right.
I'm out.
Nope. And this is not a figment of your imagination. They are both clearly seeing it,
yeah.
and it's written in some sort of blood-like substance on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, the girls didn't appease whatever person or spirit was writing this on the wall. Rather than go up to the room, of course, they proceeded to run screaming from the house in search of a neighbor that they could alert to call their father. They do so, and Brian had heard the strange sounds and had previously dismissed, and hadn't heard the sounds and had previously dismissed any claims. So he did it again. He's basically saying, like, now they're just going further with their cries for attention.
Right. Well, I mean, this is just a typical case of not believing in ghosts. I mean, if you don't hear it, you don't see it, then you don't believe. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, everybody that believes in ghosts has had some sort of encounter. I feel like other people.
And to be fair to their father, it just seems like such a far-fetched thing that does not happen in real life. This is we're talking about it on the show because it's a rare, odd thing for a human being to do, what Daniel LaPlante was doing.
And also, to be fair to the father, it's not supernatural. There was nothing supernatural happening. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, you have that aspect of it as well. I mean, he was right, but so were they. So you're at this weird crossroads.
And so when he comes home after being told by his daughters that this had happened, he does find writing in the basement on the walls in what was determined to be ketchup, saying, I'm in the bedroom, come find me. And, of course, that he's thinking, well, they could easily do this themselves. It's ketchup.
Uh-huh.
And so he's still just not believing. And the noises would die down for a while following this, but eventually another message showed up on the wall again. The girls fled to the neighbor who called Brian, their father. This time, when the dad entered the house, it was clear that this was no cry for attention.
Time for an ad.
What's up, creepers? Let me tell you about our newest sponsor, Simply Safe. Here's the thing about home security companies. Most trap you with high prices, tricky contracts, and lousy customer support. So while there are a lot of options out there, there's only one no-brainer, Simply Safe. As a True Crime Guys listener, the world is scary out there. There's bad people, and there's one place you should feel safe, and that's at home in your sanctuary. That's why Simply Safe's got everything you need to protect your home with none of the drawbacks of traditional home security. It's got an arsenal of sensors and cameras to blanket every room, window, and door tailored specifically for your home. Professional monitoring keeps watch day and night, ready to send police, fire, or medical professionals if there's an emergency. You can set it up yourself in under an hour. Just peel and stick the sensors exactly where you need them. No technician required. And there's no contract, no pushy sales guys, no hidden fees, and no fine print. All of this starts at $15 a month. Only $15 a month to keep yourself safe and your family safe in your home. I'm not the only one who thinks Simply Safe is great. U.S. News and World Report named it, quote, best overall home security of 2020. And the best part is, if you head to simplysafe.com/creeper, you get a free HD camera to get you started. That's simplysafe.com/creeper, CREEPER. Make sure that they know that we sent you. The person, the perpetrator doing these things was in the home. When the family re-entered the home to seek out the source of the writing, they heard noises upstairs. And the father basically ran upstairs, entered the bedroom of the girls, and when he opened the door, he immediately saw Danny LaPlante, he didn't know who Danny LaPlante was at the time, but he saw a teenage boy in all of his horrifying depravity, dressed in Brian, the father's dead wife's clothes. This teenage boy was wearing a dress. He was wearing makeup that was smeared across his face, and he was holding a hatchet. It just gives me the fucking creeps.
Dude, he thought the girls were going to walk up in that room.
You imagine, my God.
You are scarred for life if those girls walk in that room first.
If you're not physically scarred, because he then proceeds to chase the family around with this fucking hatchet. I think he was planning to harm people tonight, on this night.
I agree.
But because the father was there, the father was much bigger, and I mean, not that he didn't still succeed in subduing. Danny still was able to. This is where reports kind of vary, because some just gloss over this, and it's like the police show up and then they take him into custody. But then there's some sources that say that he proceeded to chase Brian and the daughters around the house, subdued them for a while, was walking around the house, and that's when they freed themselves and got out and called the police.
And see, I found this as well, but I also found another telling of this section where when Brian walks into the room, Danny is surprised that it's not the girls, and he and he runs out and gets past Brian and runs down the house, and Brian is chasing him.
Yeah, that seems the most likely to me.
Yes, me too. Because he didn't want to take on the dad. If anything, he wanted to kill those girls.
Mm-hmm.
So
he wants a weak. I mean, people like this, they want power. They want a defenseless victim.
That's right.
Someone who's scared of them, not a full-grown man.
That's right. And this
you give a teenage like a 14, 15-year-old kid or whatever Danny was at the time, who's not a particularly big kid, he's not an athlete or anything like that. You give him a hatchet, and he's in my house with my daughters. I take the odds. I'm gonna win over that kid, even if he has a hatchet.
Yeah, even if he has a hatchet, you subdue that one arm that has the hatchet, and you go from there. I mean,
yeah, unless he hits me in the face or the neck with that hatchet, which I'm not gonna let happen, and he hits me anywhere else, he's still gonna die. I'm still gonna strangle that little
fucker.
Exactly,
and the body is more resilient than you think, especially with that much adrenaline.
Exactly, adrenaline is a powerful thing. You don't feel the pain during something like that. So.
That's right. Yeah.
I believe that telling. Wherever you heard that, that seems the most likely to me, that Danny was surprised that it was the father that walked in, and he tried to just get the hell out of there, and that's when the cops are called. And
yeah, because I just don't see the father running in cowardice while this guy with a hatchet chases him and his daughters. That just don't make any sense.
Right.
That just doesn't seem like that's what happens. I feel like you try to encounter that guy right there by yourself, not anywhere near your daughters.
Yeah.
But he did get away. Yeah. For whatever happened, he did get away from Brian somehow.
He got away.
And escaped.
He got away, but of course he would return.
Right.
So yeah, the police are called. Danny gets away. However, he still had a trick or two up his sleeve. The police arrived on the scene quickly and searched the house. What they found inside was distressing, to say the least. They saw coins glued to the ceiling, writing on the walls, and even semen on the girls' clothing. Ugh.
Oh, gross.
The one thing they did not find was Danny LaPlante. The family was reluctant to return home, as they stayed away for either days or weeks, depending on different accounts. When they finally did return, however, they saw the figure of Danny LaPlante one night standing in a window. The police were again called to search the house, and this time they actually found him. They found him hiding in the basement where he had set up shop, essentially. While searching the Andrews basement, one officer thought he saw something odd near the washing machine, or there was either a dresser or a washing machine. I've also heard different accounts on that. But there was a large object intentionally pushed in front of what turned out to be a hole leading to a small crawl space between the walls.
Mm-hmm.
In that crawl space was Danny LaPlante, kind of trying to still not go. He didn't really want to go quietly. He was still kind of trying to fight off the police, but eventually they coaxed him out of the walls and arrested him almost a year after that first fateful date that he had with the young daughter of this family. Mm-hmm. Wow. Inside the wall, they found evidence that he had been in there for quite a while, and it's determined that he had been living part-time within these walls for 2 months. They found a sleeping bag, food wrappers, and beer, indicating that he'd been living in there on and off for a while. So you imagine he's probably away from his home as much as, the father, Brian, is away from his home. He's probably mainly every night, I can imagine, he's probably within the walls of this home.
He was probably just staying
family.
there, man, eating their food. They were probably just blaming it on each other. Brian's like, there's my fucking beer. Ah, damn.
Right. It probably was Brian's beer, now you say it.
Yeah, I mean, they was probably just taking stuff. I mean, if he was that brazen to walk around, he had time to write on the walls. Apparently, he had time to go get ketchup out of the kitchen. So,
yeah, no doubt.
If he was in there, I'm sure he was taking everything he needed from them.
Yep, and he knew when they'd be there and when they wouldn't. He was peeping on them through the walls.
That's right. Yeah, he had like little holes in all of the bedrooms. He could creep around the house. He knew where everyone was listening to everything.
Crazy.
Terrifying.
So at last, after him being arrested, the family was safe to return home. But this was not the end of Danny LaPlante's horrifying story, because he was a juvenile and he would end up getting released shortly thereafter. And I just feel like these are such bizarre and kind of heinous crimes that he was involved in that they should have known that they were going to have a repeat offender on their hands here, and they should have put him through therapy and kept him locked away for a few years minimum to really evaluate his psyche at the very least.
I mean, they already do have a repeat offender. That's what really aggravated me about it. It's like, this is not this kid's first time being in trouble. Like, what are we doing here?
Exactly. Like, he's been breaking in and out of people's homes for years at this point.
Everybody knew about it. What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just because he's a minor, I mean, he's not going to do it when he gets older. I mean, he's barely a minor. What is he, like 17 at this time?
Yeah.
I mean, damn. I don't know.
Yeah, so even though LaPlante's crimes were heinous, he was young and treated as a juvenile. Daniel was initially sent to the Department of Youth Services Detention Center, where he remained for a few months. But because of his age and the fact that nobody was physically hurt, he was then the dude had a hatchet.
I know.
And had the father not been the one to come in that room, what do you think happens?
Yeah, it's not for lack of trying that people weren't physically hurt. That's intent, man. Intent should be taken into consideration way more than it is with offenses, in my opinion.
Yep. He was then transferred to the Ayer District Court for processing in October of 1987, the month I was born. He was then quickly bailed out by his mother, who vehemently believed in her son's innocence, and she came up with a $10,000 cash bond in order to free him. He was due back in court in December of that year, but before he could be tried for his crimes against the Andrews family, Daniel would greatly escalate his crimes into murder. So he's out, and he's not going to waste time getting right back to doing what he does.
Right.
And this time it would be a lot more serious consequences. December 1st, 1987, a man by the name of Andrew Gustafson had some exciting work-related news to share with his wife. They also had 2 daughters, and he'd been trying to contact his wife, who was supposed to be at home with their daughters, and she wasn't answering the phone when he'd call. He wanted to tell her, he either got a promotion or something along those lines, and he wanted to take her out that night. And she wasn't answering the phone, which is not like her because she was usually at home with the daughters during this time. So when Andrew Gustafson got home that evening, the house was eerily quiet. Upon entering his bedroom, he just tragically found his wife laying face down with a pillow over her head. She'd been shot multiple times in the head, and it was clear that she had been dead for at least a few hours. I've heard reports that he then fled the house he said that he knew that if his wife was in a state and the house was as quiet as it was, that his children were gone.
So he didn't look for the children?
He didn't want to see. He'd already seen his wife in that fashion, and he just couldn't see his kids in that, and I can understand.
Dude, I can understand that completely. I was putting myself in that situation, which I typically do. I don't know why I still do that after studying true crime this long.
It's just human nature to put yourself in those shoes.
But
I think it's part of being a good human to put yourself in someone else's shoes, even if it's in a situation like this.
It is. But when I read that his 2 daughters were in bathtubs, I was like, oh my God, just imagine going in there and finding them. It reminded me of the Gary Green episode we did. Remember where he drowned the little girl in the bathtub and they found her later? The brothers found her. I mean, imagine having to deal with that, man. And you find your wife and your 2 daughters. I mean, like, your whole family is gone. And it happened while you were away. I just don't know how. I don't know how you recover. I don't know.
The courts let this fucker out within a matter of months, and that's why this happened. So yeah, tragically, as you kind of alluded to, his two young children had been drowned in 2 different bathtubs in the home. The police would find them. A short time later, a few towns over from Townsend, Daniel then kidnapped a woman in her car. Though she was able to escape, LaPlante then was discovered hiding in a dumpster 2 days later. So it was a manhunt for him, and they were able to find him in a dumpster 2 days later. I'm sure when he kidnapped that woman in her car, she gave a description, and they realized what they had let go, what had just gotten out of jail and was now on the streets. And all this happened right when Daniel LaPlante got out.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that lady in the car playing that big of a role, but it had to have, because there were no witnesses otherwise, other than her.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Because Danny LaPlante had no connection to the Gustafsons. It was just a random family home that he broke into and did these absolutely monstrous crimes in,
Right. So thank God that lady got away.
Mm-hmm. So the police took him in and inspected his clothing. They found a hair on his sock that was a match for Abigail Gustafson, Priscilla's daughter. A year later, LaPlante was sentenced to 3 15-year sentences to be served concurrently or consecutively for the murders of 45 years for the Gustafsons. It seems even light, the fact,
Still
especially
light.
With him only being like 17 or 18 at the time, which means he 45 years, he still has a decent chance of getting out and not even being that old.
Yeah, but I don't think he is going to, though. There's some YouTube videos of some appeals and stuff, and the family is there to make sure that he doesn't ever come out.
Well, he's shown absolutely zero remorse.
That's the problem.
I guess his attorneys hated him because he was laughing about everything all the time.
Yeah, he's a sociopath.
And then in prison, he's just continued his awful behavior. He converted to Wicca, which I'm not saying that's awful behavior, but like continued his just cries for attention and wanting special treatment. So his whole reason for converting to Wicca, it seemed as though he could then launch complaints against the legal system for not giving him access to the things he needs as someone in Wicca.
That's exactly
which
why
would
he
be
did
dragon's blood, black opium, honeysuckle, in order to practice his spiritualism. So he's converting into these things just to get special treatment, or at least to complain that he's not getting special treatment for his religious
here's
beliefs.
the thing: to do something spiritually, you don't need anything. That's why you're doing it spiritually. Like you don't need anything, regardless of how you believe or what your religion is. If you
maybe the Bible, so you can read it, but other than that, I mean,
even then,
if that's the religion you pick,
yeah, I mean, I guess, but even then, you can still have a relationship with God. There's plenty of people who are, claim to be devout Christians, and I guess are by definition, that don't know shit about the Bible. They have what they call a relationship. They communicate with God in whatever way they see fit. And he would be able to do the same thing in whatever gods he believes in. Because I think the Wiccan culture believes in different gods, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, and to give some credit to what you're saying, other members of the faith have come forward within Wicca to say that he does not need these things in order to be a Wiccan, and that they do not accept him as one of their own.
That's right. That's right. No, we don't.
They were like, no, bitch, you don't get to be a Wiccan.
That's right. That's right. They catch a lot of bad press. But
a guy like Danny LaPlante, who did these horrible crimes to children and stuff, like that's given Wicca a bad name.
That's
the fact
right.
that you joined that, because that's not what they're about, obviously.
Exactly.
So on March 22nd, 2017, a resentencing hearing for LaPlante was held at Middlesex Superior Court in Massachusetts. He asked for a reduction in his sentence. At the hearing, it was mentioned that during his first appeal, previous court rulings were cited saying that juveniles convicted of murder should be given a meaningful opportunity to re-engage with society. There was also a new law allowing, quote, juveniles convicted of murder with extreme cruelty and atrocity to ask for parole after they've been behind bars for a minimum of 30 years. The judge, however, gave LaPlante a maximum penalty of 45 years after the forensic psychologist evaluated LaPlante and found that he was not remorseful for his crimes. So in 2017, I think he had made it to that 30-year mark. Yeah, exactly. It would have been 87 to 2017. So yeah, he would have made it to that 30-year mark, and that's why he was trying to take advantage of this new law, allowing 30 people who 30 years, juveniles of 30 years out from being able to apply for.
Right.
But his behavior throughout, it was just like showing no remorse. So he's clearly not a changed person.
No.
He's still gonna lash out in violence as soon as he gets out. If
it's
you
like,
give him the
how could he be?
opportunity, in my opinion, so.
And he's been in prison. He's grown up in prison now. I mean, how is he going to be better? I mean, let's be honest.
Well, being who he is, some people choose to rehabilitate themselves within prison. Not that prison is all that great at rehabilitating anyone.
I was about to say that's the only way.
What it does give you is a lot of free
rehabilitated.
time to evaluate yourself and potentially rehabilitate yourself. But most don't do that. So
yeah, you're right about that. And they're not, like you said, they're not made. The prisons aren't doing it for them.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
Yeah. Hope that one creeped you out sufficiently for Halloween season. We've got a few more episodes before Halloween hits, so we got to get these creepy ones in. You know.
That's right.
Just that image though of him standing there, in their mother's dress, like with a hatchet, with the makeup smeared across his face. It is,
oh, it was terrifying. It's terrifying and creepy, all in one, man. I just think I'm like, man, I'm glad the walls in my house aren't even thick enough for somebody to fit in. You know, I think about that all the time.
Right? Yeah, definitely. It's not. Most homes are not built that way these days.
Right. Right. That's right. Most homes, newer homes, don't have walls that are that thick, or they don't have basements with crawl spaces and whatnot. But although those are nice to have when you're doing repairs, plumbing, electrical, or whatever. But creepy though to know that somebody could be in there living in these crawl spaces. Ugh. Yeah. That's terrifying. It's terrifying. I used to live in a house that had it was kind of like a split level house. Like the front of the house looked small, but as you went down behind it, it went like downhill. And on the bottom, you had a downstairs, and it had like a finished basement. But on the side of the house, because the top floor was, because of the way it went down the hill, the top floor was so high up, you had almost like a full door for your crawl space. So you could open that door and go in underneath the house, and there was tons of space under there that wasn't part of the finished basement. And you could walk around under there and be under the floor at any point of the house.
Oh, that's creepy.
So I always kept that thing fucking padlocked. The padlocks were
just
padlocked.
fill it with concrete.
It was just everything. Yeah. I mean, I put shit in front of the door. It was, oh man, I was so paranoid about somebody getting up underneath the house and just being able to live there or listen to us or stalk us or whatever, because it was, I mean, we lived in the city too. So there were people walking up and down the road all the time. It was a fairly busy street. It would have been fairly easy for somebody to come down and just be chilling up underneath our house, but never had any issues with it as far as I know. So, but still creepy though.
Good.
Still, that house was built in the 30s though, so that gives you some perspective. Had the old stucco plaster walls in it and shit. That house was old. Yeah. The house was real old.
Yeah.
But. All right, man.
Right on. So should we talk some Oh My Gaia? Would have made your crawl space smell a lot better.
Yeah, it would. It would absolutely. It would make you handle the stress of someone living in your crawl space a little bit better too. While you're sitting there sweating bullets, wondering if someone's watching you. At least you'll smell good, right?
Yeah.
You'll smell good with Oh My Gaia. If you don't know what Oh My Gaia is, it's an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And guys, I'm sure that Oh My Gaia has a scent that will work for you. There are tons to choose from, including vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside. And we have our very own scent that I'm very proud of called True Crime Pine. I always keep a jar on hand. I love to mix True Crime Pine in and out of the rotation, as well as Egyptian musk. That's another one of my favorites. But because you guys are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper, CREEPER, and you can get 15% off your order. And that's at ohmygaia.com, OHMYGAIA.com, or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram. Guys, you won't regret it. If you're thinking about going to a more natural deodorant, something that's better for your armpits, something that doesn't have aluminum in it, this is a great choice. Definitely want to give.
Also, would be a great choice for a stocking stuffer for family members and whatnot with Christmas coming up.
That's right.
get in now and just start stocking up on stuff to, little gifts for people. And
that's right.
Like I said, it's a perfect size to go inside a stocking too. So
absolutely, and the jars last a long time, and they're glass jars with these screw-on plastic lids. They're reusable. You can use these jars for all kinds of shit. We keep all of ours. We use them for just different things around the house. So they're very usable. They're very functional. It's it's good for the planet. It's good for your armpits. I can't talk enough good about them. Oh, my guy also has incense too, which I've been burning. I actually still have a little bit of hint of one in the room here that I burnt earlier. It reminded me of it.
Oh, they're awesome.
The incense burn forever, and they smell amazing. So, guys, give it a shot.
All right. We're actually recording a few days early today, so that we don't have as many reviews to cover. But I want to thank a few people. Next week we'll have more. We'll be able to catch up. But
right.
So I want to say thank you to John Gilbert in the U.S.
Thank you, John.
Who gave us a 5-star review. Said finally get to leave a review again. iPhone broke, went cheap with an Android. Can't leave reviews on an Android. So thanks, John, for now that you got your phone and you're ready to rock, for going and rating and reviewing.
Right on.
And Patsy730 in the U.S. said, love this podcast. Lauren and Michael are excellent. Big yes please to the Just the Banter on Patreon, which is a perfect segue into Patreon.
It is.
We just released Just the Banter episode 2 this morning at midnight Eastern.
We sure did.
So it was actually released last night at 9 p.m. for those West Coast people.
That's
you got a little... seems earlier, but it's the same time regardless.
Yeah, I know. Same time regardless. But yeah, you guys look for new episodes of Just the Banter every Friday on Patreon. So it'll be released midnight East Coast time.
What do we talk about in this recent one? If you can refresh your memory, you just posted it. So
a
little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, man. We talked about some life, some current events, stuff that's going on. We talked about street beefs. We talked about
street beefs.
We just talked about a lot of different stuff, man. It's kind of hard to keep up with it. You guys will have to check it out. We talked for
and in this one I actually sat down on the mic instead of being at work, so the audio quality should have been on par with this episode right now.
Oh no, that is not even out yet, man. We're still
oh shit.
Yeah, this is still one that we called. The first conversation that we had for it ended up being well over an hour, so I split them up. That was a little more than we wanted to do for Just the Banter. We want to do more, somewhere around 20 to 30-minute segments, which would be perfect for you guys' ride to work and whatnot. So the first conversation, the volume 1 and 2 are actually the same conversation, and they split up. And volume 2 picks up right where volume 1 left off. So you guys can. I'm going to try my best to keep everything in chronological order. So as our conversations progress, if I split a conversation, the next volume will pick it up right where it left off. Because this show is literally just the banter. We have an intro, it comes in with us bantering, and then it just cuts off. Like, that's it. That's all you get for that banter, right? You got to tune in next week for the rest of that conversation. So that's
usually the best stuff is when we forget we're even recording. We're just we're talking to each other on the phone is what it gets to.
That's right. That typically is the explanation for 90% of our tangents on this podcast. It's for like, oh yeah, we're podcasting. Let's get back to this guy. Forgot about that.
Yeah, so you can find that on patreon.com/truecrimeguys. They have an app as well, a Patreon app, if you you want to just keep it simple. $2 a month gets you access to all of our bonus or all of our exclusive episodes, our Patreon exclusives. $5 a month gets you the gold Creevan sticker and access to Just the Banter.
That's right.
And then you can go from $10 a month, and $10 you can have a conversation with us, which we're still trying to work that out. We've got a few people backlogged that we gotta figure out whether we're gonna do Zoom or what, but we're gonna try and get that done. So
I feel like Zoom would be the best thing. That way we could all join in our own areas. Since if you guys are unaware, me and Lauren are across the country from each other now, so we have to we're gonna have to figure out some way where we can both be on it. And I think a Zoom meeting would be the best option.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And also, I think it would take pressure off of the people who wanted to be in on the conversation. It'd be more like a hang with a group of people as opposed to like you're talking with Lauren and Michael. You better entertain. I feel like a few times people they're like, I don't know if I want to actually do it because it's a lot of pressure. It's like a first date type of thing.
Yeah, and it's like a 2-on-1 type of deal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, when we're all in our own places and we're all on our own little screens. it feels like an even playing field. It's like one-on-one.
Yeah, so it
Okay.
could be us with like a group of $10 patrons that just and hang out on Zoom. That'd be actually fun.
Man, yeah. Maybe we could get like if 2 patrons knew each other or something. That would be helpful.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. All right.
So what else we got?
Anything else?
What else we got to plug? All of our social media at True Crime Guys,
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter, Michael's other show.
right.
Well, our other show, but it's Michael's baby.
That's right. Strange and Unexplained. Strange and Unexplained, guys. If you already caught up on True Crime Guys, need some more True Crime Guys productions, check out Strange and Unexplained wherever you listen. New episodes drop every Monday with Strange and Unexplained, and Lauren has his own little segment in there called the Lauren Synopsis at the end. So basically what I do is I try to break down the case the best that I can, give you guys all the juicy deets and whatnot, the facts here and there, and then I give my opinion right at the end, and then you get to hear Lauren's opinion on the case. And he often brings in other angles, other perspectives as well. Maybe he finds little articles and things here and there that helps add to it. So overall, in the course of 30-40 minutes, you get a really good grasp on a topic. So you have both of us studying independently, just like we do for True Crime Guys.
Yep.
But it's just a little more concentrated. So we're not talking together. We each get our own time to kind of explain what we think about the case and, our standing about the case at the end, which is pretty cool. And also a lot of you don't know this. My wife helps a lot with this show as well. If you guys are familiar with Higher Thoughts with Michael, my wife Kristen was on there quite often with me. She's an amazing conversationalist. She's a great writer, and she also loves true crime as well. She's kind of a behind-the-scenes person, always has been. So I'm kind of the mouth of our relationship, which is fine with me. It always has been that way, and she's content.
She's
with
using
that.
you like a puppet,
But
she's behind you.
Exactly. But I'm totally cool with that, and she is too, and it works together. So when you're hearing these stories on SNU, you're actually getting 3 people's perspectives all mashed into one. Three people who are studying independently about this topic. So we try to bring you all the important stuff, the stuff that's backed up, not a bunch of mumbo jumbo that's bullshit, that's hearsay. Now we do have speculation parts. Don't get me wrong, but those parts are clearly identified. So What I'm getting at is a lot of work goes into Strange and Unexplained. So if you guys wouldn't mind, give it a shot, give it a listen, hit review, and then if you really love the show and you want to support it, we have Patreon for that show as well. Patreon.com/S&U podcast. And you'll get access to 2 other shows that I do independently on there, one called The Palate Cleanser and one called Strange Shorts. And those are released on a weekly basis. I'm still trying to iron out the schedule, but I do release one or the other every week. So
there you have it.
All right. That's the
there you
spiel.
have it. Anything else to plug? Are we done?
I think we're done. Got some new merch coming soon, guys. So be on the lookout for that. New merch designs. I'll post them up on social media and stuff. I'm working on a new store. So a new store, kind of like Redbubble, but it's supposed to be a lot more user-friendly, a lot easier to navigate. And when you go to our store, you will stay on our store. I don't know if you guys have any experience with Redbubble, but it's frustrating as hell because let's say I send you a link to a shirt that's True Crime Guys. You click that link, and then you click a little button below it says, see other things in my size. It just shows you all the creators. It just shows you all the creators and stuff that's in that style of shirt or that design. Totally takes you away from our page, and it's super frustrating. I don't know why they do that. I mean, I don't know. I guess they're trying to get everyone equal exposure or whatever, but when someone follows a link to my page, I want them to stay there, right? I mean,
and they're not looking to get crap. They're looking to get your stuff. They're not looking to get some random person stuff.
Exactly.
They made it they made it there for a reason.
Exactly. So Redbubble is very frustrating in that way. It's very hard to navigate. So this new site is supposed to be a lot easier. It's supposed to be a lot more user friendly, and also the prices are supposed to be cheaper. And hopefully, we will actually make more money as artists creating designs and creating content. Because on Redbubble, I mean, it's robbery, to be honest. I mean, we sell a $25 to $30 shirt and we make $2. I mean, it's bullshit.
And it'd be great if we had the time to print and ship them all ourselves and stuff. But yeah, I have a full-time job with kids, and you got kids, and you got
it's just
all
not
the
a
content
reality.
you're making, and we just it's a lot of stuff that you have to do that. We'd almost have to hire someone, and then what would be the point?
Right, exactly. Not to mention the upfront cost of just getting these shirts up front, and then maybe you run out of a certain size. Now you're stuck with a bunch of odd sizes. There's just so many variables there. So we want to go through this third party, but we've been struggling trying to find one that is fair, that is legit, and that is worth our time and your time as listeners to go to and support. So be on the lookout for that, guys. New merch coming soon. New exciting things happening in TCG Productions. And, so we appreciate it, guys. Appreciate all the support.
Love it. All right, guys. Hopefully there's no more audio issues, too, within the podcast app situation. I don't know what's going on, because we listen to these episodes before we post them, and they're fine. And we're doing exactly the same thing we've always done. Nothing's changed. And all of a sudden, people's apps are skipping our show around, so it's weird too, because it also just seems to be random a little bit.
Yes, it is very random. We'll have people that have issues on one app, and then 2 or 3 people will comment that use that exact same app and say it's fine. So the inconsistencies are very aggravating, but I think it has something to do with the rise in podcasters in general. I mean, look at all the podcasts coming out nowadays. I mean, everybody has a podcast. There's a new true crime podcast every day. Yeah. And that's just in true crime. That's not considering comedy or history or anything, and these other big categories that have tons of shows. And I think these podcast players are getting overwhelmed with all the new RSS feeds being submitted constantly and all the content being out there. I just don't think they're suited for this. I think there's going to be a big change in podcast players, and I think that's why Spotify has really stepped into this game so strongly, is they realize the potential and the growth that podcasting has shown over the last few years. And Spotify's my favorite. I don't know, and Podcast Addict. I really do like Podcast Addict. I talked about this on Strange and Unexplained in the last episode about how.
Yeah, and I started to try one called Podcast App. It's just called Podcast App. It's a blue logo.
Yeah.
I love it. I've been using it this week just to test it out. I love it. I like the format of it. It's very simple. Like, when your new episodes are up, they put them in sequential order. It's great. I haven't had any audio issues with it. So there's a lot of good options out there. If you're having trouble with our show on one app, just try a different one. It takes a minute to download it and download our show on there.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate the continued support. If you're having audio issues, stick with us. We swear, it sounds like a cop out, but it's not our fault, man.
Yeah, but we're seriously not doing anything different. We're still producing our show the same way we always have. Yep. So,
all right, guys.
All right.
Keep creeping. We'll see you next week.
Yep, keep creeping, guys.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder, get murder, get murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder charming.